Hello and welcome back. I have a lot of art books, and one thing about having a lot of art books is that you don't really get to go through them quite as often as you'd like. So I decided to take this opportunity to kind of peruse the collection a little bit and pull out some of the more interesting books that they're all interesting. I love all my children equally, but to pull out some of the ones at the forefront of my mind currently and kind of flip through them with you a little bit, give you a little taste of what we got going on in the art book library. And hopefully this will intrigue you to follow some of these artists. Maybe you already follow them and you just wanted to see what the book looked like. Well, then I got you, girl. All right, come, let's look at the books. The first book I'm looking at is Nima by Ross Strauss, or Ross Tran. That's his actual name. Ross Strauss is his YouTube name. This book is so fascinating because it reads like a development book for a project that doesn't exist yet, which is a fun way to approach putting your artwork together. It's very compelling. Like, I feel like I want to read or see the project that this is based on. If you've ever seen any other art book for like a movie or a video game, this is exactly what it feels like, and it makes you just kind of want to jump into the world. It explains a magic system. It shows like different character breakdowns and like stats for these characters, and on top of that, the art is gorgeous. I really like his style. It's kind of this hybrid of very graphic but also very painterly, which is fascinating to me because I wish that I could get something that had this like striking shape language where it's like clearly defined line for like everything, but it's still super painterly and soft and magical feeling. Like, I just love how ethereal everything looks. So recently I started getting back into my sketchbook habit, kind of, sort of. I'm still terrible about playing with my sketchbook, but one of the main things that brought me back or made me want to explore my sketchbooking and drawing from life again was actually this art book, Fortuna by Sophie McPike. It's basically her travel journal, and it's a bunch of sketchbook scans of this travel log of a time she spent at, I believe it was an art retreat called Fortuna. Don't quote me on that, I'll figure it out. But she went on a travel retreat and she basically logged her entire time there via sketches. And it's such a fun, the way she plays with different materials and the effectiveness of like using squiggles, and it reads as foliage and stuff like that. Like, I just had so much fun looking at it. I really want to draw outside now, but every time I draw outside it does not look near as good as what she's doing, so I'm insanely jealous, but I hope to get there one day. So Fortuna, Sophie McPike. So the next one up is another travel sketchbook, this time by Victoria Ying, and it's depicting her time in Japan. So the cool thing about this sketchbook is that I believe Victoria Ying has like an animation background, and you can see that reflected in her style. Her style is super animated and it's fun. It feels a lot like looking through her actual sketchbook. I believe she's just like scanned the whole thing as is and basically put it together as such. So even the cover and everything for this book is the actual cover of the sketchbook that she used. So it feels like someone handed you their personal sketchbook and said, hey, yeah, have a look. And the cool thing about going through the entirety of the thing is that you're seeing all the things that she pasted in the sketchbook. You're seeing all her little notes to herself, like, oh, I really like this outfit that I wore today, and a little cartoon drawing of herself in said outfit. You're seeing the food that she ate, the people that she saw, and like the sights that she was seeing as though you were there. So it was a really cool flip through of basically someone's personal sketchbook. It was a really interesting take on a travel log, which I enjoyed. As a travel log girly, I love to see it. So of all the art books here today, I think this next one is probably the most influential on like my approach to illustrations, like personal illustrations. It might not seem that way if you know my illustration style, but walk with me, okay? This next book is Hallowed by Sara Kipin, And the entire vibe of it is kind of macabre in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. A lot of her illustrations, it's kind of like you have the main illustration, you have to look deeper to get the punchline of the macabre joke that we're, the little quip in there. Joke isn't the right word, but I struggle to find the right word to describe it. Just basically know there's a punchline to every illustration and you have to give it a proper look because it's kind of hidden in there. And I think that connect the dots tongue-in-cheek situation it appeals to me. I really like that, and I aspire to put that into some of the illustrations I've come up with. So this book, the color scheme for one is gorgeous. It's a lot of vivid jewel tones, and even though it's a lot of dark settings, because oh my god, it doesn't lessen the colors or the saturation at all. It's still super bright in a way that, I don't know, it's appealing. It's just delicious to look at. So Hallowed, Sara Kipin, that's another good one. Write it down. Put that in your own notes. This next book is Colores by Gabby Zapata, and the thing that I really enjoyed about this particular art book is her ability to weave together a myriad of colors and patterning and several of those together in one character and one illustration, and have them not fight each other for dominance. It's very hard to have several of those things in one piece and not have them clash, and she manages to have them work together and complement each other versus fighting each other, which I think is very interesting. The other thing that I really like about this book is her character work. I think they read really, really well. They have a lot of personality, they're strong silhouettes, and it feels like people you would meet in your neighborhood. Like, it's very slice of life, and she's managing all this while it's basically caricaturizing the environment and the world that she lives in. It's very stylized, but it feels very real, and I think that is an excellent quality to have. So I enjoy looking through this book. It's very inspiring. So the next book on the list is Rakugaki by Heikala. I do not know if I pronounced Rakugaki correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Also, apologies if I did. With Rakugaki, you basically are getting a peek into Heikala's sketchbook, which personally I love to see the inside of someone's sketchbook. I think there's a lot to be learned about seeing the thought process that they took while making certain pieces that they made. So this is no exception. I'm basically getting a peek behind the curtains on how some of the illustrations that I've seen from her have turned out or how they came to be. This sketchbook is filled with a lot of flowy lines. There's a lot of movement in all of her sketch work, and it feels like a lot of the things that maybe I would have thought of as oh, that's a mistake, I should erase that, get incorporated a lot better into her sketch pieces than I would have thought to do it, which is interesting. It's kind of a lesson on there's no such thing as a mistake in your sketchbook. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this from maybe your art teachers or from other people doing art on the internet, but there's this whole thing about using a pen when you sketch, because then you learn to I don't know, not make mistakes essentially, or how to use those stray marks to your advantage. And I feel like this sketchbook is kind of a perfect example of why people say to do that. So this next book is Driven in Color by Natalie Andrewson, and it's kind of unique, different from the other art books in that it's a little bit of a tutorial mixed up with an art book, like a regular art book in and of itself, and it's explaining the concept of resew printing as she shows you her artworks that she's done with resew. If you don't know what resew printing is, it's kind of like a mashup between screen printing and a photocopier machine. You get some really interesting and unique ink colors from it. It's normally these really electric and acidic oranges and pinks and blues and yellows, and you can see that all in this book. She really uses the breadth of the ink work to, I don't know, the highest possible level. It feels like there is a lot in this book to really walk you through resew printing and how it works. There's even this really cool section where you break down the layers, like she shows you layer by layer her screen printing process. She breaks down the reso printing process screen by screen, which is very fascinating. And a lot of the artwork is magical in nature. It's a lot of elves and fairies and farmscapes, which are all these kind of like natural feeling, earthy feeling moments in time, and it kind of feels juxtaposed with like how electric and acidic the color schemes are, but it works so well. Like they still feel pleasant and cozy, even though they're like these super bright, hit you in the face colors. So Tumble by Chris Hong is the book we're looking at next, and I already stated that I really love seeing people's process work when I'm, going through stuff. And this book really does bring you into the process of making the illustrations that she's done, including all the sketch work and the studies and everything like that goes into completing a piece. And it's very interesting to see because she's a very methodological, it's a funny word, methodological. I think I said it right. She's that. She's a very method heavy illustrator. So there's a lot of like sketches and piece by piece testing out the different like layers and color schemes and value studies of like how it culminates. And her watercolors are very moody, they're very atmospheric, and they're also, her characters are very cherub-like. So it's interesting seeing this come together because it gives like a weight to the pieces that is very like, I don't know, it feels like it has a dimension to it, like you could just grab them, which I love to see. And also I love how, because everything is so kind of moody and atmospheric, it just feels like it just fades away into the distance at the edges, and I love seeing how soft but grounded everything feels. This next book is Before I Forget by Loftis. You can tell that I really like people who like the art of people who work in the animation industry, because a lot of the books that I have here are by people who worked in the animation industry, including Mr. Loftis. In this book, it's kind of basically pieces that Loftis did to kind of remember his childhood growing up. It's filled with illustrations that depict his childhood, little set pieces from life in the Midwest when he was little, or maybe imaginative things that he would think of when he was little, and so on and so forth. There's even a glossary in the back that kind of breaks down like, okay, this piece was inspired by such and such when I was growing up, or this piece is when I was little, my grandma used to watch Jeopardy and I would draw alongside her watching Jeopardy. So that's kind of what this is. This is filled with interpretations of moments in time, which I think is a fascinating way to remember your childhood or reflect on your personal history. And our final book today is Aeris by Ari Pan. And I'm not gonna lie to you, there's a bit of a recency bias with this book because it is the most recent book that I've purchased, and I just really wanted to talk about it. The thing that got me with this book is her lighting. The lighting in this is so cinematic, and I don't know, each of her original illustrations kind of look like they're pulled like screen caps from a movie. They're so cinematic. How many times can I say cinematic before it gets old? The other thing with her lighting that I found really fascinating is that there are certain pieces that the light looks like crystals. They look like literal diamonds in the sky. They are so bright and they glisten so much that it's just, I'm personally fascinated by how she pulled that off in a digital piece. I would love to know. So maybe if I look at this book enough, it'll click. I'm not sure. But until that day, I will be staring at the beautiful diamonds in the sky and wondering how to. Real talk, I have a lot of art books. This isn't even scratching the surface, okay? So if you wanted to do another one of these, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, we can make that happen, is what I'm trying to say. So let me know if you were interested in doing, I don't know, another peruse through the art book catalog. We can do it by theme. You know, we could do an animated version. We do video games. We could do something like this again. You let me know and I'll make it happen, whatever you want, okay? Until that day, thank you so much for watching my video. You could do all the YouTube things down below, like, comment, subscribe, and new videos on my channel every other Saturday. But until then, I'll catch you on the internet sometime. Goodbye. Okay, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. All right. We begin.